What's up, guys? Today we are in the beautiful New Mexico mountains. And today we're going to talk about scouting for turkeys in the western states. It can be a daunting task. I know. I'm from Tennessee, where it's very small woods, huge populations of turkeys, and pretty much any property you go on, you're going to have birds. But out here, especially in New Mexico, it's huge swaths of public land, national forests, and it can be overwhelming. And I know the questions like when I first started hunting out here last year was, where do I find birds? How do I find birds? Where do these birds live? How do the birds behave? And so today we're gonna try to answer some of those questions and kind of walk through how I scout for turkeys. We're gonna talk about the 5 most important things to think about when you're scouting for turkeys in the western states. Number 1 is gonna be e-scouting. E-scouting is huge. Make that vast area of public land, those vast mountains, small. Section it off into places that you wanna scout and places that you wanna hunt. So I'm gonna take you through how I e-scouted for these turkeys that I'm going after this spring before I even put boots on the ground. The first thing I do, so I wanted to take this area, and I knew that this is kind of the mountain range that I wanted to hunt right here. As you can see, that's a pretty daunting task. That it's a vast area, hundreds of thousands of acres. And so the question is, well, how do I take that down and section it off and scout specific parts that I want to hunt? And the first thing I think about is if you've ever bass fished a lake, it's easy to have the same question. There's so much water. Where are the bass going to be? How do I know where to fish? And in fishing, you're looking for specific things. You're looking for ledges, you're looking for drop-offs, you're looking for structure, stuff like that. Well, scouting is very similar. Turkeys need 3 things to live. They need water, they need food, and they need a place to sleep. So you're going to look at areas that have all 3 of these things. And in the West, water is king. So the first thing you want to find is that water. And so I'm going to go down here and turn on the hydrography map. And so I identified this area as because of this reservoir. The reservoirs are going to have creeks running off of it and stuff like that. Now, not all these creeks will have water. Some of them will be dry. A lot of them will be dry, actually. But you're just going to have to put boots on the ground to find out where the water is and things like that. But I'm going to utilize, especially scouting, these trails. I'm going to drive up into these trailheads and hike in. It not only allows easy access for you, but also the turkeys will use these trails to travel on. The first thing I notice is with this water is you see how this area in here is very green. It's ponderosa pines. If you zoom in, you can tell that it's pines, and this stuff is more shrubbery, more brown. I'm gonna close down my search into this kind of area, this green area that has meadows, that has multiple creeks, strong creeks running through it, and trails to access. Now the trails will attract other hunters, but there's plenty of space in here to hunt hundreds of thousand acres. This is just one little section of it. But my guess is that this will hold turkeys, and I'm just looking for one turkey. So in here, I drove in and walked up one of these trails, and within the first 50 yards, I was on gobbler tracks. And so that's very easy with the reservoir, these creeks running through it, easy access. They have a place to eat, sleep, and drink. Yeah, that's just the basic things. And in both instances, I found turkeys right away, and I put cameras up, and within 24 hours had pictures of turkeys. So it was a success, and that's just how I kind of narrow the search down so that I can put boots on the ground and be calculated in my scouting when I do get there. Number 2 is know your birds. If you're hunting Merriam's, like I assume most of you are going to be, you got to understand that these are not your Easterns from back south. These from back south may live in a 100-acre plot. These Merriam's can travel 2-3 miles a day. So understand that, 1, your best chance to kill them is going to be off the roost and come back to the roost, because that's really the spots where you know they're going to be day in and day out. And number 2 is they travel a lot, so you have to understand that your strategies change. You can't just necessarily sit in the spot and hope that they come by and call sporadically. A lot of times you're going to have to cover a lot of ground when you're hunting. So likewise, when you're scouting, you need to cover a lot of ground. Try to figure out the pattern of these birds, because Merriam's are patternable. Number 3 is understand that what turkeys have to have. They have to have places to eat, drink, and sleep. We've talked about the water. They cover a lot of ground to find places to eat and find other turkeys. Number 3 is where they sleep. You see these ponderosa pines in the back. There's a lot of areas in the western states that have little shrubbery that you'll find mule deer in, you'll find rabbits and stuff like that. There is wildlife, but don't make the mistake like I did in thinking that there's turkeys there, because they have to have these pines, or in some places dogwoods. They have to have big trees to roost in. So you want to get up into elevation where, think elk country, where they're going to be able to sleep and get away from predators during the night. So that's number 3. Number 4 is understand what you're looking for. Understand that when you're back home in the south or back east, you may be looking for turkeys, maybe listening for gobbles. And while listening for gobbles can be good early in the morning, understand that especially in the early season, before the season, these turkeys, especially these high elevations, aren't really hammering yet. So what you're looking for is sign. You're looking for poop. You're looking for well-traveled roads that you can call from, that you can sit on during the season. You're less looking for birds and more looking for sign like this. Roads where they're going to be traveling. Roads where you have turkey tracks going multiple directions, showing that they're traveling it multiple parts of the day. And yeah, that's number 4. Number 5 is don't get discouraged and understand the elevation. Know that before the season, these birds are not exactly where they're going to be during the spring. There's certain areas where they might be, but especially up here in the mountains, see all this snow? It's almost April here. But these birds, as spring gets closer and closer, are going to follow the snow line up. The snow, as it melts, reveals bugs and vegetation that weren't there before. So they're going to follow the snow line up. So where they are condensed right now, they may not be as condensed when season comes around. And also, when you're walking these roads and you're not seeing tracks and poop, it's easy to get discouraged, but know that when you find these birds, when you find where they're going to be, it's worth it, it's rewarding. You kill and marry them in this kind of country. It doesn't get much better than that. I'm going to be here for 2 days. I'm going to scout this evening, and then I'm going to camp in the truck. I'm going to get up in the morning. It is getting close enough to the season in a couple of the spots at a little bit lower elevation where I think there will be birds. Hopefully they'll be gobbling in the morning, and then we'll be scouting all day tomorrow to try to find multiple spots that in a couple weeks when we hit it, we can hit it hard with confidence. How many places are you gonna hunt? So there's an elk track and a turkey track side by side. Well, I'm driving out of this area and I started to see all this elk sign. And in these mountains, usually you find the turkeys where you find the elk, kind of in elk country. And sure enough, I just ran up on a big old longbeard.